The program you're about to see was taped on the day before my longtime friend and partner, Gene Siskel, passed away. Our mutual friend, Tom Shales of the Washington Post and NPR's Morning Edition, was kind enough to help us out on this show as a guest critic. The first review is of the movie 8mm.
Here's the deal, Max. This thing I'm on right now has something to do with underground pornography, stuff that's sold under the counter illegally.
Okay, first movie, and in an age when so many movies seem to be smoothed out and with all of their edges softened, 8mm is hard, dark, and violent. It stars Nicolas Cage as a private investigator hired by a rich widow to track down the truth behind a snuff film she discovered in her late husband's private office. Cage's trail leads him to an adult bookstore clerk named Max California, who isn't exactly in love with his job. He's played by Joaquin Phoenix.
What are you reading?
Oh.
Catchy title. What are you really reading? Hard to believe that book's got any parts worth highlighting. Capote.
Yeah, well, you know how it is.
Yeah. Wouldn't want to embarrass yourself in front of your fellow perverts.
Cage wants to be introduced to people who might know something about violent pornography. He's trying to track down the makers of what looked like a snuff film.
I'm just saying, before you know it, you're in, deep in it.
Don't worry about me. But thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Pops, you dance with the devil don't change. Devil changes you.
The people he finds are depraved and dangerous and threaten the life of his family. He tries to warn his wife, played by Catherine Keener.
Take Cindy. Get out of the house now. Go to where we spent 4th of July weekend.
Why? What's wrong?
Amy, please, I can't. I'll be there in 3 hours. I'm on my way. Go now.
In the way it confronts us with the cruel and twisted side of the human mind, 8mm resembles, I think, The Silence of the Lambs, and also Seven, a more recent film written by the same man, Andrew Kevin Walker. This film was directed by Joel Schumacher, who made 2 of the Batman films, and here he finds a dark, frightening tone for material that is R-rated and definitely for mature audiences only. I was jolted, but I was absorbed.
So your thumb was jolted up?
My thumb is jolted up, yes.
Well, my thumb's kind of jolted down. I wish Nicolas Cage had played a hard-boiled rather than such a soft-boiled detective. He seems to, you know, when he's asking questions, when he should be getting to the heart of the matter, he's overwrought with angst about the horrible world he's getting into. And I don't know about you, but I picked out who one of the bad guys was from the very beginning of the film. It was fairly obvious.
Well, that's the extra character, you know. There's an unwritten rule. Whenever there's a character otherwise unaccounted for, he's the bad guy and he'll turn up later. But I don't know. Yeah. You know, if it had been another just tough, violent detective out there, I think it would have been just another tough, violent film. And what I liked was the fact that this guy who loves his wife and his family and who doesn't believe that this stuff really happens gradually gets changed into the kind of person who is capable of revenge and possibly even of murder. And I think that arc is what the Nicolas Cage character is about.
All those phone calls home. Talk about phoning in a movie. This really was an ad for AT&T.
The weakest point in the film is his relationship with his family, which seems kind of perfunctory, you know. So many actresses get stuck with these roles where they just have to take phone calls from the hero.
Yeah,
he's out.
The Ann Archer role.
He's out starring in the movie, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our next film, The Other Sister, is a combination romantic comedy and tearjerker about a mentally disabled young woman named Carla Tate, played by Juliette Lewis, who tries to assert her independence but keeps being thwarted by her overly protective mother, played by Diane Keaton. Carla has spent 10 years or so in a private boarding school for special children, so when she comes home at last to her very affluent San Francisco family, they throw her a birthday party in the backyard. It does not go well.
Maybe one day I'll be able to take care of my own apartment, like some of the kids at school do.
Oh, Carla, you don't know what you're saying.
Yes, I do.
No, we can't discuss this right now, all right? Open these presents. Here.
If Carla's mother has fits about the idea of Carla getting her own apartment, she's even more upset when Carla falls in love with a mentally disabled young man named Daniel, played by Giovanni Ribisi. Daniel first meets the Tates on Halloween.
This is my idea of a nightmare.
Mom, I want you to meet Daniel. And Daniel, this is to my mother and my father.
Look. What is...
Carla and Daniel are determined to live the so-called normal lives that have been denied them, to be self-reliant and to make love. The two sweethearts even have an instruction manual to guide them along.
Page 84 is okay. But I don't want to do page 155.
But if I remember correctly, the page, 146, and it looked pretty good.
How much do you weigh?
Director Gary Marshall, who scored a big hit with Pretty Woman and a notorious flop with Exit to Eden, uses every trick up his sleeves in telling this would-be poignant and whimsical tale. Then he tears off his sleeves and throws them at you, too. The result is a movie of almost sickening, pandering cuteness. Ribisi is kind of touching as Daniel, but Juliette Lewis turns Carla into Lethal Weapon 5, overacting and sucking up to the camera and to the audience. I think it's insulting and offensive to depict mentally disabled people in this way. I wasn't laughing through my tears, I was cringing through my yawns. Thumbs down from me.
Gee, I liked it a lot less than you did.
Good. I mean, oh.
I mean, I hated this movie. This goes straight onto my list of the worst films of the year. And one of the things I didn't like, in addition to agreeing with everything you said, is the way that these supposedly mentally retarded people have dialogue that has the exquisite timing of a well-honed sitcom. And as for Diane Keaton as the mother, she is more retarded than her daughter. She has to be led by the nose through every single discovery that she reluctantly makes during the course of this film.
She flip-flops, though. At times she seems likable, and at times she seems like she's giving good advice. Then suddenly she goes ballistic again and becomes this, suppressive. I thought this movie was like, for me, it was like being surrounded by a mob of mimes, and each one is trying to be cuter than the other, It's just, stop, let me out of here.
Did you use the word cringe in your review?
Just now, you mean?
Yeah, because I don't want to repeat you.
So long ago, I remember. I don't remember.
I cringed when
I cringed too.
Okay, coming up later in the show, Christina Ricci and Courtney Love are determined party-goers in 200 Cigarettes.
You see, now that's what New Year's Eve is all about. You can feel the fun like electricity.
Coming up next, Andy Garcia tries to convince Andy McDowell that he is just the ticket.
Gary, could you say something to make me stay?
Dean Martin is here.
I'm sorry, Gary. I tried to call you 3 times.
Oh, not Mrs. Haywood.
Yes, Mrs. Haywood, with no notice and an impossible menu.
Andy McDowell is an ambitious chef with a big catering job, and Andy Garcia is her former and maybe future boyfriend in that scene from Just the Ticket. It's a movie about a woman who loves an irresponsible ticket scalper, but is afraid to commit to a man who doesn't even have a social security number.
Ooh. Squeeze that mousse. Ooh, rub this in. Ooh, squeeze that mousse, baby.
Wow. The scalper thinks he's about to hit the jackpot with a fistful of the hottest tickets in town to the Pope's Mass at Yankee Stadium.
This is a real thing now. It's different. It's real.
Really? Is it like the combination salad bar and laundromat? Or the drive-through teeth cleaning place? What was that called? Gary's Lackorama.
He pitches in as a waiter for her big catering assignment for a rich and obnoxious society matron.
Linda, darling, the salmon shells. I'm a tad disappointed in their size. They're awfully small, aren't they?
They're the standard size, Mrs. Haywood.
No. They were definitely small. But we'll reflect that on the bill.
This makes it look like it's a romantic comedy between this cute caterer and this goofball guy, but most of the movie is actually about Andy Garcia's character and his street life as a guy who has scalped tickets for years and lives outside the law. Just the Ticket feels like an uneasy assembly of leftover ideas from a lot of different bad movies. The publicity notes, incredibly, say the movie was inspired by the films of John Cassavetes. This is the kind of film Cassavetes was trying to replace.
Very good point. I got the feeling I was watching Andy Garcia's master's thesis from acting school. He does the gamut, then he does the gamut again. He does 6 gamuts to be this Damon Runyon-esque character.
This film could have been so much grittier and more real if it had been, let's say, about real ticket scalpers instead of trying to be about ticket scalping as a romantic backdrop for this kind of stupid comedy about this boy and girl,
Yeah. And so much dialogue. I think there's as much dialogue in this movie as in 3 normal movies, and most of it is from Andy Garcia. I just got sick to death of hearing him talk.
Okay, coming up next, Ben Affleck, Courtney Love, and Janine Garofalo count down to New Year's in 200 cigarettes.
Ellie, that's perfect. Cream cheese. Oh, I don't even recognize myself anymore. Ugh. You know, I hate parties. I hate going to them, and I hate giving them.
Suppose you gave a New Year's Eve party and everybody came, but you were passed out cold and didn't know it. That's just one of the subplots meandering and crashing around in 200 Cigarettes, a new comedy from MTV Productions about one night in the lives of several desperate fun seekers. Specifically, the night of December 31st, 1981. Martha Plimpton as Monica is the one throwing the party, whose only guest for a long time is her friend Hillary, played by Katherine Kellner. Meanwhile, and this movie is loaded with meanwhiles, Paul Rudd as Kevin and the inimitable Courtney Love as Lucy are elsewhere in New York's East Village in search of festivities and finding some in a wacky cab driven by comedian Dave Chappelle.
You do this every year. Every year you do this. You ruin a perfectly good holiday with your stupid birthday.
Well, I'm sorry that it's my birthday. Believe me. I'm sorry that I was born at all.
Frank it.
Will you pull over? Pull over here, right there.
All right, baby, hold on.
Ben Affleck spoofs his own image as a lady-killing hunk by playing a bartender who tries to be as cool as Tom Cruise was in Cocktail.
Hey, man. Box.
Don't sell yourself short, sir. The night's young.
Jay Moore, who was the bad guy in Jerry Maguire, plays a boy with whom girls inexplicably and for him annoyingly keep falling in love. His latest willing victim being the spectacularly klutzy and confused Cindy, played by Kate Hudson.
All right, here you go. Your drink.
What?
And if Hudson reminds you of someone, it's probably her mother, Goldie Hawn. As you can probably tell, there's no real plot as such to 200 Cigarettes, and it's a very MTV-ish movie in that if you aren't thrilled with one set of characters and their continuing misadventures, director Risa Brayman Garcia and writer Shayna Larson will be cutting to other people soon enough, or sometimes not quite soon enough. This is one of those movies that isn't particularly good. It could use a snappier pace and funnier dialogue and has lots of dead patches, but still, it's immensely and intensely likable. Basically, if you loathe New Year's Eve, and who in their right mind doesn't, you'll be in the right mind to love 200 Cigarettes. A happy little thumbs up from me.
A very unhappy little thumbs down for me. I detested this film, too. And among other things, well, first of all, it's flat and slack, and it's real slow, and not much happens. And really only Courtney Love and Christina Ricci bring the energy level up because they are intrinsically interesting as people on the screen. But apart from that, here's a movie where almost every character smokes in almost every scene, and none of them know how to smoke. You know, whatever happened to the screen art of cigarette smoking? And also, the lighting. In the old days in Hollywood, they knew that if you threw a lot of light into the area where the smoke was going to go, then when the person exhales, it all becomes a big white cloud. Here, it always kind of gray and dingy. It looks like pollution rather than cigarette smoke.
Did you pay any attention to anything other than the smoke?
There wasn't much else to pay attention to as far as I could tell. I found it to be a real, dead zone.
Well, I can't say that I'm thrilled with it, but I would still give it a thumbs up as a kind of silly, fun, frivolous, empty little movie.
Okay. Our next movie is one I saw and really liked 2 years ago at the Slam Dance Film Festival, which is sort of the poor relation of Sundance. It's called 8 Days a Week, and it stars Josh Schaefer as a recent high school graduate named Peter who is hopelessly and helplessly smitten with a neighbor named Erica. He decides to prove his devotion by camping out in her front yard 24 hours a day for the whole summer. Erica is played by Kerry Russell, the star of the new TV show Felicity. Peter is so much in love with her, he agrees with everything that she says.
And there is no doubt about it. Roger Moore is by far the best James Bond.
Roger Moore? Come on. Everybody knows Sean Connery is the best James Bond.
Yeah, you're right. Roger Moore is the best James Bond.
My God, what was I saying?
The movie was written and directed by Michael Davis, who has a good ear for comic dialogue, even in small talk, like here.
So if you were to be afflicted with either of the following, which would it be? Halitosis or incontinence?
Halitosis. I figure I could always stock up on breath mints.
The funniest supporting character is Max's friend Matt, played by R.D. Robb. He leads a lonely but extremely active sex life.
Here. Can you hang on to it till I can sneak it back in? And stop smirking. Not the first guy that's tried this. What does that Kinsey book say about it?
In a way, the character of Peter here is a little like the hero of Rushmore. He's smart, he's ingenious, and he has a hopeless crush on a beautiful woman. But 8 Days a Week is funnier than Rushmore, and it's sweeter, too. It's a romantic comedy with goofy, lovable characters. With all the really bad high school movies out there right now, here's a really good one. But it's only in test markets to see if there's an audience for it. Well, of course there's an audience for it. So if you live in Austin, Texas, or Omaha, Nebraska, it's playing right now. Omaha, Austin, go see 8 Days a Week because the rest of the country is depending on you.
Well, I don't want
And depending on you too, Tom.
I don't want to discourage all those good folks in Omaha and Austin, but I wouldn't exactly beat the doors down for this one. But I agree with you, it's better than the average. I'm a little worried, though, about any filmmaker who's past 21 who can get so much in touch with his adolescent ideas about sexuality. I mean, there's hardly a line, a moment, a remark in this film that isn't about sex.
But that seems to me to be accurate about teenagers. So many of the teenagers in today's high school movies look like they're really cool and confident 25-year-olds.
Yeah.
And Josh, in this movie, the actor, he looks like he's about the right age. And Carrie does, too. She's pretty, but she doesn't look like she's 25. And, of course, they're thinking about sex all the time because they're at the age of raging hormones.
Well, I was thinking about sex all the time, too, because Carrie Russell almost is completely nude. And if that doesn't get people into theaters, I don't know what is. She's an absolute beauty on Felicity. She's wonderful in this, intoxicating and terrific.
Okay, so thumbs up, then.
Okay.
Okay. When we come back, there's just something about my video pick of the week.
So when you say, killer.
I'm tired of talking about stalkers. Let's talk about you.
Is brought to you by Nestle Raisinets. At the movies or at home, Raisinets.
My video pick of the week is the funniest movie of last year. There's Something About Mary. I guess I wasn't really surprised that this raunchy movie didn't get any Oscar nominations. Hollywood always likes to pretend at Oscar time that it doesn't make any money from zipper jams and Dogs on Fire. But it should at least have been nominated for editing because the timing of this movie is exquisite and adds to the impact of the jokes.
I got it stuck.
You got what stuck?
It. Oh!
That's Ben Stiller as a high school boy who is deeply in love with Mary, played by Cameron Diaz. Years pass, and he's still in love. He hires a private eye to find her, played by Matt Dillon.
Let me ask you something. Was Mary a little big bone back in high school?
Big bone? No, not at all. No.
I guess she packed on a few pounds over the years.
Oh yeah? So she's a little chubby?
Oh, I'd say about a deuce and a half. Not bad.
Dillon, of course, has fallen in love with Mary, too. Then he has really bad luck with her neighbor's dog.
All set?
Even though I'm selecting There's Something About Mary as my video pick of the week, I really feel sorry for people who didn't see it in a movie theater. One of the film's pleasures was the explosive laughter it generated. People not only laughing, but laughing at themselves because they couldn't believe what they were laughing at. If you watch it at home, invite a crowd in to watch it with you because it's going to be more fun that way. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this show. We split on 8mm. Thumbs up for me for this absorbing adult thriller starring Nicolas Cage, but Tom thought it was just too sordid and creepy. We both give thumbs down to The Other Sister, a sappy and offensive romantic comedy involving two retarded people. Thumbs down from both of us on Just the Ticket, a movie about scalpers where, in my opinion, the view was partially obscured. We split on 200 Cigarettes. I thought this nostalgic look at New Year's Eve partygoers was just a mess, but Tom thought it was immensely likable despite its flaws. And finally, I really liked, and Tom sort of liked, 8 Days a Week, a movie about teen love starring the currently hot TV star Carrie Russell. So if you're in Omaha or Austin, you can see this movie, and if enough of you go, the rest of the country can see it. Remember, you can hear our reviews on the web at Siskel-Ebert.com. Next week, more new movies, including The Deep End of the Ocean, starring Michelle Pfeiffer as the mother of a kidnapped child. And also Analyze This with mob boss Robert De Niro consulting psychiatrist Billy Crystal. And Tom, thanks a lot for joining me the last couple of weeks.
I don't know when I've had more fun, Roger, and that tells you something about my life right there. No, it's really been a pleasure.
Would you like to do the closing honors?
Yes. Until next week, the balcony is closed.